Welcome back to Talking Story. My name is John Minton, and I have a review. It's been a minute since I've done a book review, so I am looking forward to this, and my thanks has to go out to NetGalley and Blackstone Publishing. When I put my list together of books coming up in 2024 that I absolutely wanted to read, the first one hitting this year, January 9th, was Glass Box by J. Michael Straczynski. Now, I wanted to read that so bad because I am a huge Babylon 5 fan. I think that show is a great testament to how one creator can get almost an independent vision into a TV and film media, because he was showrunner and he wrote so many of those episodes, and the story came to him kind of all at one time, if I'm to believe the story, in the shower, and he was able to get that on the air over 5 years and complete the arc, and I absolutely thought it was phenomenal. So him coming out with a book, I didn't even go that deep into what the book was about. I knew I wanted to read it, and thanks to NetGalley and Blackstone Publishing, I got an e-arc and have wrapped that up, and I'm ready to bring my full review to you. My review works on a classic 5-star system. We're going to look at 5 different categories: world building, plot, characters, pace, and prose. Each category you can get anywhere from a 1/4 star to a full star. At the end of this, I'm kind of going to have to do some math in my head, add together what we have, and that's going to be the score for the book. So let's go ahead and get started with world building. This is one of those books that I'm not really comfortable calling it horror or science fiction. It's certainly not fantasy, but it is speculative fiction. It's one of those books that just takes kind of a sliding sidestep into our very, very near future, like even consider a couple years maybe or something like that. So it absolutely uses as a springboard our world right now and the political reality of our world right now, the polarizations that are happening between different ideologies or different ideas of what's best for our world and best for our country, taking that to the extreme possibilities coming up in the future. So some horror elements, absolutely. Some speculative fiction, absolutely. So it kind of walks that tightrope in world building. What I will say I loved about the world building is it absolutely is well researched and well thought out. It takes our, as again, very polarized and political situation right now in this country, and it extrapolates it into the future using very, very concrete research of what these next steps could be and how the dominoes could start to fall if we don't follow through with some of the themes of better communication. And I thought that was just absolutely top notch. Now that is at the very beginning of the book. After that, it all kind of segues into one location or one hospital. So we don't have so much of the world writ large because the people in the hospital, and I'll get to this in plot in just a second, the people in this mental hospital are shut off from the world. So they're not really able to know exactly what's going on in this world. So some of that, I mean, some news does get in and it does continue throughout, but not as much as I would have liked. At the beginning, I was so on board with just tipping that line of dominoes and seeing where the cascade takes us with that little sidestep into our very near future. I really loved that. I thought it was so well done, and I thought we were going to follow down that path like a 1984 or a Clockwork Orange or a Brave New World. I thought we were going to follow down that path, and it kind of changed on me a little bit for world building and became way more constricted and restricted when we got into the mental institution. So I kind of wanted more from world building. Where it started, it really whet my appetite for expanding on our reality and going forward in a thought-provoking way and a very believable, concrete, researched way. And I love that at the beginning, and I wish just a little bit more could have continued through, as just opposed to some just sparks of it as we got some news from the outside world. So where do I come in on world building? I'm going to give it a 3/4 star. I thought it was absolutely wonderful. It did have what I wanted, but as the book went on, it didn't follow through the way I was hoping that it would. So that takes us to plot. Plot, this is, again, very in our just next door to where we are now on our timeline, or an alternate timeline. It's not real our real world. They use names of politicians that are different and such like that. The plot is, and another thing that I thought Mr. Straczynski did amazingly well is, depending on what the reader's ideology is or what we think, he does a great job walking this tightrope of whichever type of ideology is in power at the moment. To achieve their agenda, they start passing legislation to shut down conversation and dissidents, people protesting on the streets, people raising their voice, as historically has been done in this country when you don't believe in the way the powers that be are taking our country. Doesn't matter where you fall on an issue, we have a long history of that. So whoever is in power at this moment, and again, it's used names that, not ripped from our headlines, whoever's in power starts passing some legislation and going back through legislation way back from World War II era, using it, massaging it, bringing it back into play to where we can shut down dissidents. They basically pass a law saying that the right to assemble can't be over 10 people. So all of a sudden it is absolutely illegal for us to raise our voices and protest on the street, regardless of what side of the issues we are on, which I thought was a great touch that he does. And he walks that tightrope very well because he can connect to any type of reader. So once you are picked up, arrested after protesting or joining a group like this because you don't believe in what's going on in the halls of power, it's happening so fast that there aren't facilities to hold these people in and basically give these people a type of therapy. If you're on the street and you're protesting, you could be great people. You could believe in what you're saying, but you've been led astray by people that are passing off false ideologies and using you as a cudgel to go against the people in power when you don't really know everything that's going on. So it's not necessarily that it's prison time, but they want to pick you up and they want to re-educate you in a way and show you how you have been led astray in this belief system that led you to the protest in the street. So since there are not facilities and all this legal wrangling is happening quite fast, the people that are picked up are taken to a mental institution, so they can go through different types of therapy, group therapy with others that have been picked up, single therapy, and that kind of thing. So what brought you to the streets? Why are you believing the aggression that you're experiencing? Where is this coming from? Let's take a look at that. Let's get you back out there in a really well operating piece of society. So that's the idea. So once they go from the streets, once they are picked up, our main character, Riley Diaz, and others, she meets others that have been picked up in this mental institution. And because it's happening so fast, the people that have been picked up protesting are in and amongst people that are absolutely in that institution for different reasons. Dissociative disorder, depression, your regular emotional trauma and challenges that you would find people in an institution like that. So a lot of the book, once they leave the world of getting picked up, this is where a bit of the world building started to fall apart for me because I couldn't be immersed in it. We just had some dribs and drabs coming through because one of the patients that is in for depression has a phone, and Riley, our dissident that's been picked up, can get a little bit of information and can see where this legal wrangling is even going darker and darker as she has been incarcerated in this mental institution. But it just did not go far enough for me. Where I will say for plot with me, once Riley Diaz is picked up and put in this institution, I found basically there's two plot threads trying to gain ascendance, if you will. We have the wounds that we carry, these patients that are in here, the wounds they are carrying, the wounds that we all carry from our past, trauma, how we deal with those, how we are taken care of, how we're responding to that kind of trauma, how we can find empathy to others with that kind of trauma, as well as the political satire that's going on with that just half step into our future, it kind of starts to almost have like two different major themes or different plots going, and it was almost like planting really gorgeous flowers too close together, and they kind of strangle each other and can't really come to full bloom. I just thought I was involved with both, but I just wanted one or the other to take ascendance. I really wanted for me, it would have been great if the political satire would have gone all the way through and been really pushed forward, and it would have been a much more darker book, I believe. But that's not what Mr. Straczynski had in mind. He can absolutely tell the story that he wants to tell. It's just how it hit me. So for me, these two plot threads going kind of neck and neck. And at the end, I will say one other thing, and this is from my background in theater. There's an old rule. It's from Chekhov, and if you show a gun in an early act, that gun better go off by the end of the show. And I'm not giving any spoilers away. It's not actually physically a gun, but there is something that's been shown and ticking, and things you would be led to believe, oh, come to the end, this could be a problem, and it absolutely is. But for me, it was just a little bit convenient way to wrap up and end it, and it just didn't ring true for me. So I just had a little bit of a problem how the wrap up of these two battling plot threads were that got revealed or resolved. And for me, that brings me to plot, and I'm going to go a half star for plot. I liked both sides of it, and I thought the two plot threads plowing into each other brought about some of the most amazing emotional moments in the entire book. The emotional heart of this book is Riley Diaz coming into contact with these other people that are in that facility for a completely different reason than being protesters on the street. And some of those emotional moments are absolutely gut-wrenching, and I loved them, but I just didn't think I was able to go all in on either one of those combating plot threads. So, half star on that, which brings us to character. I absolutely adored Riley Diaz as a character, the main protagonist. I thought she was completely fleshed out. Her background, why she believes it's her duty to be a patriot, to take the streets when things are not going her way. The background of protest in her family, the aggression that is built up, the guilt that she carries from being I won't go too much into it for spoilers, but the guilt that she's carried from her family, and all these things that start to come out in these therapy sessions when she gets here. And the other standout character for me was Frankenstein. And I don't want to go too much into it because the reveals of this character are some of the strongest points of the book. But as Riley gets to know and starts to peel back the layers of this character, of someone that's in this facility for very different reasons, this is the entire emotional spine of this book that runs all the way through. There are some amazing, amazing moments. He is completely three-dimensional and realized as well. Some of the old other protesters that were in there with Riley, some of the other doctors and nurses, I just started to see some iconic characters, maybe some things I've read in the past, like Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey, or other works that I start to see, okay, well, there's that character is a placeholder to bring about this. There's the doctor with our white hat. There's the doctor with our black hat. They weren't fully fleshed out for me. They weren't fully complex for me. They were just kind of placeholders to bring about a dramatic tension or a conflict. But those two characters at the heart of it for me, Riley Diaz and Frankenstein, and their connection and relationship as the book goes on, was so much the heartbeat of this book. And I absolutely was totally bought in on those two. So characters, it had a couple that I would have thrown myself in front of a gun and died for. So I'm going to go 3/4 star for how much I loved Riley and Frankenstein. That brings us to pace. This is a vicious book. It does not slow down. From the moment you start to the moment you wrap up, it moves at a methodical, nonstop fashion. I went through this probably in a couple days, 2 to 3 days. It was a very quick read. The pace is pretty unrelenting, and it gives you an awful lot to think about. Again, the research is top notch, and you will absolutely be able to suspend your disbelief and take this little sidestep into the future and find it harrowing. And the pace, I have to give a full star. So that just leaves us with the prose of Mr. J. Michael Straczynski. This prose is lean, it is mean. There is nothing here that doesn't need to be here. He doesn't take forays into the beautiful or the metaphor, the description. He lets his themes say everything. He lets his research say everything. He lets what the characters are dealing with say everything to you emotionally, as opposed to is a beautiful language. When the language gets beautiful is in the moments when Riley is reading Frankenstein, the actual text of Frankenstein, to the character that has taken that name for himself. And those moments, you juxtapose the language from the original Frankenstein to what Mr. Straczynski has written here. That kind of shows you that his prose has no extra fruit on the vine. It is just what you need to eat to get the story. So I kind of like some beautiful language thrown in now and again, and I thought the juxtaposition from one of my favorite books of all time, Frankenstein, kind of showed that there wasn't, I could have gone with some more beautiful language. So I'm just going to take a 1/4 star off for prose and give it 3/4 stars. So where does this leave us all on Glass Box by J. Michael Straczynski? If I let the wheels turn and add this all together, I come with a 3.75. So close to that 4-star level. Remember, anything over 3, I think, is a very solid book that I would have no problem recommending to anyone if it sounds like that is a read that you would be interested in, or a journey you'd be interested in taking. 4 stars and above, oh, that could be on my favorite list. 5, 5 is rare air. That's gonna, I think, withstand the test of time and be around long after we're long and gone. So 3.75, very, very close to my favorite shelf. I do think there is a lot here to like. I do think this is an important book. The theme of our historic culture, of being able to raise our voice in protest, be a dissident, be a patriot in that way, and start a conversation, and a conversation that can go 2 ways, and empathy that can be inserted into that conversation. If we cannot talk to each other, if we cannot understand each other, if we cannot empathize with each other in these polarized positions that we more and more take every day, this is some of the dark future that Mr. Straczynski sees for us, and it is harrowing. So I do think some of the themes are so important in this book. Some of the emotionality, like I say, absolutely hit me right here in the chest with this book. So I would have no problem recommending it. If this sounds like there's a glimmer here that, oh, I want to explore that, you are a fan of Babylon 5, you will not be let down with what he prepares for you here. And absolutely, it is well worth checking out. It will be out January 9th. We are going to put a little link right down here. If you want to check out the book, we'll put a link. You can go ahead and purchase it and get a copy for yourself and read it. If you do, absolutely let me know what you think. I love comments here. And full disclosure, we have become an Amazon affiliate, so I think a little bit of, we get a little gift cardy goodness if you purchase, and that helps us purchase books for the channel. So if you're interested in this book anyway, it's a great way for you to support us and keep us in books here on Talking Story. But if you do read it, absolutely let me know. Let me know what you are excited about coming up in 2024. If this is up your alley, let me know if you're going to grab it. Let me know what you think of it when you do. I love comments. We started this channel so we could talk back and forth about books. So if you haven't just hit that thumbs up down there, that subscribe button, go ahead and do that. It feels just so right to do it. It helps us do everything we do here. And thank you so much. Usually I have a little spoilery section for a review, but since this one has not come out yet, I'm not going to do that because, I've got no one to kind of go back and forth spoilers with. So that's it for me. Glassbox 3.75. Thank you guys so much for stopping by again. My name is John Minton, and this has been Talking Story.